Mexican National Guard and Army trucks are now at the border separating Mexico and El Paso, Texas. They're among the first of 10,000 troops that Mexico will send to its northern border after tariff threats from President Donald Trump. Patrols have also been seen near Tijuana, Mexico, near San Diego. This comes as ICE cracks down on undocumented immigrants already living in the United States. Yesterday, ICE conducted a multi-location enforcement operation in the Denver area. Now, this includes the apartment complex deemed to be a criminal nuisance after a series of incidents relating to gang activity.
Unfortunately, we have to come to the communities because we don't get the cooperation that we need from the jails. It would be so much easier and so much safer for our officers and agents if we could take these people into custody from a safe environment. But if we have to come out in the community to do this, that's what we're going to do.
Meanwhile, the Department of Defense just shared this video of first flight of undocumented immigrants arriving at Guantanamo Bay. The DoD says the people on the flight were, quote, high-threat criminals who brought violence and mayhem to communities. CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya Galvez is following all of this for us, talking about deportation and immigration. So, Camilo, first off, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. What do we know about these migrant holding operations happening at Guantanamo Bay?
Well, U.S. officials tell CBS News that a military plane is currently in the air en route to Cuba to transport nearly a dozen migrant detainees to Guantanamo Bay so they can be held there as part of this operation that was green-lighted by President Trump to really create a massive detention center there for those who are arrested by immigration authorities in the interior of the U.S., on the U.S. mainland. And this is the second of these types of flights that have occurred this week, sending again a dozen detainees. We are told that these immigrants are from Venezuela and that they have alleged and suspected ties to the notorious and infamous Venezuelan prison gang Tren de Aragua, which of course has become a focal point of the president's crackdown on illegal immigration. Very soon after he took office, he actually moved forward to designate this gang as a foreign terrorist organization. So it is something that he has highlighted on the campaign trail and now at the White House. In terms of the conditions at the naval base, this facility has been housing asylum seekers intercepted at sea, such as Haitians and Cubans, for decades under Republican and Democratic administrations. But now it is housing detainees arrested on the U.S. mainland, including Venezuelans who right now cannot be deported to their home country. We are told that officials here and in Guantanamo Bay are working to expand capacity there, including by setting up 10 facilities inside the naval base to house as many as 30,000 migrant detainees.
And Camilo, we are hearing some reports that ICE is releasing some migrants due to capacity issues. So what do we know exactly about those people who are getting released?
That's right. According to internal Department of Homeland Security data obtained by CBS News, as of earlier this week, Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facilities were at 109% capacity. The agency was housing about 42,000 immigrant detainees who were arrested by the agency, despite on paper only having enough space for about 38,000 detainees. And so right now, detention facilities across the country have surpassed that capacity, and the agency is scrambling to try to expand detention capacity as quickly as possible. How is it planning on doing that? Well, ICE right now, we understand, is considering a plan that would allow Customs and Border Protection holding facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border to be used to house detainees that the agency is arresting in the interior of the country, including during these operations in cities like Denver, Chicago, and New York City, and other large urban metropolitan areas across the country. It is also turning to the Department of Defense, which, as we just discussed, has already granted the agency access to Guantanamo Bay, but also a military installation in the Denver area. And we are told that more military installations could be repurposed as immigration detention centers.
Okay, Camilo, let's talk about birthright citizenship here, because a judge will soon hear a challenge to President Trump's executive order to end it. What can we expect here in this legal battle?
there are more than half a dozen lawsuits against the president's move to try to deny birthright citizenship to the children born here on U.S. soil to parents who are in the country illegally or to parents who are here as immigrants but on temporary legal visas. And so this is obviously a move that would upend the longstanding interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, which has long been interpreted by the U.S. government, including agencies like the State Department, which authorizes passports, to mean that anyone who is born here on U.S. soil physically is an American citizen, irrespective of the immigration status of their parents. And so right now we have seen now two district courts across the country in Seattle and in Maryland say that the president likely does not have the authority to change that interpretation of the Constitution and that that order has to be halted. And so we could see courts across the country block this initiative, but the Justice Department is expected to appeal that ruling and other rulings like it.
Okay, Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you so much for your time today.